Pro Wrestling Musings podcast, the place where help will always be given to pro wrestling fans for those who listen to the Pro Wrestling Musings podcast. I am Griff from GA. We have got Double or Nothing coming up this weekend for AEW. Man, this has already been an insane weekend of wrestling, and we are only getting started. Here to talk Double or Nothing with me is two guys that you should all be very well familiar with. And if you're not familiar with them, what are you doing? Go back and listen to other podcasts that these guys have been on. It's Sergi of Styles Make Fights fame, and Anthony from Down Under, our friend from Australia. We have all kinds of Double or Nothing to talk about. And let's just jump right into it and talk about the buy-in match for the NWA Women's World Championship. Serena Deeb will take on Riho. This is the one that we all agreed we have probably the least to say about, but still could line up to be one of those dark horse kind of matches that really steals the show because of the technical ability of both women. So, Sergi, I'll start with you. This seems to be the least talked about match on the card, certainly the match with the least build on Dynamite. So, coming into this, what do you think?
Oh, I don't think it's all deserving to be anybody's least talked about or least anticipated match. It's definitely a match that I'm anticipating a great deal. Mm-hmm. It's a rematch from the Eliminator tournament, and it is. I mean, there's so many aspects to it. Riho in that match was just returning from the quarantine. Serena Deeb in that match was just about to have to leave for surgery on her knee. And now they're coming back for the rematch. And this time, instead of a chance to move towards an AEW championship match, this time the NWA championship is on the line. To me, the interesting things about it are that, let's see, I'm looking at my stats, and the thing that's really changed, let's see here. Serena Deeb in her match against Riho the first time, mm-hmm. She used a lot of. She's focused really on the technical wrestling. Mm-hmm. That was her focus. That's usually her biggest focus, but even more so. Let's see, and I think that I don't think that either of them are going to change up very much. Riho won the first time; she has no reason to change. Serena Deeb, I think that a big part of where she's going to go into it is that she doesn't need to change what she's doing because she has Riho better scouted than the first time. It mm-hmm. kind of goes back to what Tony Schiavone was saying in reference to the other rematch on the show. That it's very hard to beat someone a second time in a row because they from losing they've mm-hmm. learned.
Well, from the traditional sports side of things, they always say that the hardest thing to do is to beat a team 3 times in a season, and it's because you learn so much. 1, from facing that team, or in this case, that athlete, and 2, you learn so much more from losing than you do from winning. So I feel like mm-hmm. AEW, just like they do so many things, they do really well in emphasizing that part of it, that rematches, 3rd time, 4th time, they're always different because the loser tends to change their style a little bit more. And it's actually something we've seen from Serena Deeb, which is really interesting. Her return from injury, of course, she made her return in a match against Red Velvet a couple weeks ago. Pretty much everyone had something great to say about that match. And a lot of it is because Serena Deeb showed off this new technical master type of character in the ring. She reminded me almost a bit of Dean Malenko a little bit, just mm-hmm. in terms of Definitely. She was working at such a high pace, and I think we said this at the time, the famous John Wooden quote from the Pyramid of Success: "Be quick, but don't hurry." And I think it was you, Sergi, that had the military equivalent of that. So I think that's something that's really interesting about Serena Deeb coming in here, because Riho is also very fast, but because she is an incredible athlete, when you look at Craig's stats that he put together as well, you see that Riho uses about 11 dives an hour. That is a higher rate than I believe any woman in AEW besides possibly Red Velvet. So you're looking at a straight up athlete versus this consummate grappler in Serena Deeb, and oftentimes when we see that, it makes for a really, really good match. There's a whole lot of different stories you can tell. Anthony, I've not been able to talk to you since we've seen Serena Deeb return, at least about her in particular. So this new character that she's bringing in seems to me to mix really well with the kind of white meat babyface athlete that Riho has always been. So Sergi is really excited for this match, and I think a lot of people who are familiar with Serena Deeb are as well. How do you feel about this particular matchup?
Yeah, look, I'm just really happy that they've given us the second women's match on the card. I
Absolutely.
was getting very, very worried that they weren't going to there for a little bit. Obviously, everything around it, they've just announced it randomly. There's just no real effort put into it, which is disappointing. Both girls and the division as a whole deserves a bit better with this one. When you look at that they've actually put in effort in that for everything else, it's just a bit of a letdown, and it just feels like that this match is there just to meet that quota of getting another women's match on the card. So that is a bit disappointing. The match itself is going to be great. Both women can wrestle fantastic. The good thing is that Riho on her social media the other day said that she's now in US permanently. So I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of her, which is really good. Obviously, NWA is running at the moment. They've just had a number one contenders match. So I fully expect Dee to win, obviously. But I wouldn't take it past them to give Riho a bit of a run with the belt either. It'd be pretty cool to see her go and hold that belt for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think with Deeb coming back and being a bit more vicious, I guess, with her attacks and that, I think that she's gonna come out and win. I think that she's gonna really hit that submission. If you look at the submission difference, it's absolutely a massive difference.
Yeah,
34
it's
seconds
shocking
worth
in
of
a lot of
submission
ways.
versus 340. Yeah, it's shocking. I think Deeb is gonna tie Riho up into a pretzel and is just gonna hold on to her until she breaks or taps. So, yeah, look, it'll be a really good match. Really excited to see the match. Just as normal, a little bit disappointed about the build to it.
Yeah, so I want to ask you both. We'll start with Anthony. Just a quick question, because you did mention something that I find interesting, which is that when you talk about the NWA Women's World Championship, it's been seen a lot on AEW programming with Thunder Rosa coming in, and then the title change was done on Dynamite, if I remember correctly. It may have been one of the special episodes, but it was done on TV. So we're seeing that title a lot, but it feels like it's there just to signify that there is this person who's a champion. I feel like if you're going to put the title on, you might as well treat it like a championship. And the only time I ever felt it was treated like that was when Serena Deeb actually beat Thunder Rosa for the title, and briefly Thunder Rosa was saying, I'm going to get my title back and all that, and then she got into her program with Britt Baker. So I want to ask you both this quick question. Is it worth putting this title on TV if you're not going to treat it like a world championship, or am I just being too nitpicky with that?
I think it's a valid criticism. My issue is that obviously they're promoting another promotion's title, which is fine. They've got a working relationship with them, but you don't see it with the men's. Like, when's the last Kenny's obviously got all these titles at the moment. You don't really see those much on TV. You have seen them here and there.
And see, I wish you would. It's the same thing. I'd like to see Kenny come out with his belts more and reference that more.
Obviously, we've seen Moxley now defend the his belt on actual AEW, which is great. But other than it's just. For me,
well, he did defend the IWGP US title against Nagata on Dynamite.
So look, I think my main concern here and my main issue is that it's all well and good to treat her like another champion. However, if we look at how they're treating their current champion, which I'll talk about later, I just they need to really focus on their own division and building their own wrestlers into storylines and that before worrying about
Mm-hmm.
promoting another champion or another promotion's belt. It's good to see the AEW girls get to fight, like giving Red Velvet a chance against Serena to just really show, what she can do and what
Right.
level she's at and how much she's improved was great. But at the end of the day, they shouldn't really be. This shouldn't be a NWA Champions match. This should just be. There should be a women's match that has a story that is featured on the pay per view or on the pre match.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Or if you wanted to make this a champion match for it, give them a story, give them a reason for why these two are fighting. Not just
Right.
randomly announce it on social media. So yeah, I think my main thing is you've got a very good point there that she should be treated like a champion, but at the end of the day, they should just be doing better with their division.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think worry about your issues at home before you start worrying about issues abroad. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Sergi, what do you think about the NWA Women's Championship appearances on AEW programming?
I definitely have a different perspective on it.
Good. That's why we
I
do this.
well, I was a big fan of NWA's Power in its first season,
Mm-hmm.
before the pandemic interrupted everything. Unfortunately, they've lost a lot of their talent, and the second season has had some issues because they don't have quite as much as they did to work with.
Right.
But I was really enjoying what they were doing. It was the introduction of Thunder Rosa, and the number one contender match that they had between Thunder Rosa and Camille just this past uh, Tuesday was really excellent. Just a
Mm-hmm.
really great women's match that anybody who doesn't have the Power subscription to seek it out. Maybe it's only $5 to get Power.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go on to Fight and get that. Very well worth it. It's one of the only things that this season has been worth it, but it is. And Yeah, so to me, I mean, the NWA Women's Championship is a championship with a ton of history, and I feel like the fact that they don't acknowledge it a ton is just the fact that it is an outside championship, but it gives the people who aren't involved in other things something to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They always could use some new thing, some different thing that gives different people something to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing necessarily wrong with saying, this perfectly uh, valid, perfectly legitimate contender for this title is going to get a shot at this title, and we're just throwing that together because we have a champion and we have a contender that makes perfect sense to be a contender. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be number one in the rankings because a lot like with the TNT title, it's not our world championship, so we don't have to worry about those for this championship, which gives them more flexibility
Yeah.
because with their world championships, they have to be real strict about referring to those rankings and and adhering to them and making the rankings work within the story. So that
Mm-hmm.
it adds that flexibility. I definitely don't have a problem with how it's been presented. I think that it's added a lot more than it's subtracted, and I think that it should be kept in mind that not only did Thunder Rosa become busy with Britt Baker, which was a great story in and of itself, but also the reigning champion had rehab to do. Now
Mm-hmm.
that she's back, we should see Thunder Rosa gunning for her title again. Whether we're going to see that on Dynamite or we're going to see that on Power remains to be seen.
You make a really good point there as well. So I think this is absolutely an issue where there are arguments on both sides, and it's really just a matter of personal preference. So if you out there are listening, especially if you're on YouTube right now, go ahead and drop a comment. Tell us what you think about it, because I think a lot of people are very much open to having their mind changed about this, or at least seeing a new perspective, because this is something that we haven't really seen done, at least on this big a stage, in a long time, probably since the 90s, at least that I can think of. So I think it's pretty cool either way. So whether you think they're executing well or not, it's a cool thing that they even have the opportunity to make an improvement on something like this. I want to talk briefly about the Casino Battle Royale at Double or Nothing. There's not much to talk about when it comes to these. We could speculate all day long about who the Joker is going to be. We'll all probably be wrong. We could speculate about who the winner's going to be, but that gets kind of boring. The field is pretty good, so I just want to know from your guys' perspective. We'll frame it like this for one question about the Battle Royale. I think AEW does a great job with these, and a big reason why is because they always seem to be able to pull out a surprise in there. I don't feel like there's ever been a winner of one of these that you felt like wire to wire this person was the 100% favorite, or this team was the 100% favorite. They were always going to win. I don't feel like there's been one of those. So looking at this field, I'm going to ask you guys, starting with Sergi, do you have a dark horse in this field for the Casino Battle Royale?
No. I feel very strongly that it's going to be either Christian or whoever the Joker is. I don't see anybody else taking it, but I could be missing something. I'd be happy to be proven wrong on that. Not that, don't get me wrong. I think that Christian or some hot, what's the word I'm looking for, free agent coming in would be a great choice to win. But no. Is anybody seeing someone other than those two possibilities?
I could honestly see Jungle Boy doing it this time. The reason why I say that is because I'm taking the Joker out of it, because if the Joker, let's say for the purpose of argument, the Joker is someone ridiculous. The Joker is like Daniel Bryan or Samoa Joe or Brock Lesnar or someone like that. Let's take that out of the equation. So let's say the Joker is a hot free agent, a great get for AEW, but not someone that you would say hot shot them to a world title immediately. So in the vein of Matt Sydal or Ethan Page, someone like that, like great workers, but not someone you would say put the world title on this person right now. So taking that out of the equation, I could easily see a situation where Christian and Powerhouse Hobbs eliminate each other, and there's a whole kind of Team Taz schmaz there, and all that. And so you're left with Jungle Boy versus Kenny Omega. I would have no issue if Christian wins it at all. I think Christian's great. But I think Jungle Boy winning it also would kind of be a sign, kind of that reminder that AEW likes to give every so often, that yes, Jungle Boy is a star. We are going to put the rocket on him at some point. We're going to put the title on him at some point. It's just a matter of when. The last time he had that was in a singles match against Dash from FTR. No, I always forget their names. It was Dax Harwood from FTR.
Dax.
Yes. Yeah, so that was the last time that you felt like AEW's reminding us all, yeah, Jungle Boy's going to be a star. Just hang on. So I feel like this could be one of those times where you really could put him in a program with Kenny Omega. And Jungle Boy is good enough that he could put on a great match without Kenny. But you add in Kenny Omega into that picture, and you've got yourself a hell of a match somewhere. So that would be my dark horse if there is to be one. But I do agree with you. Christian or the Joker have got to be the favorite. Anthony, you got a dark horse in this field?
No. Pretty much with Sergi that Christian's probably going to win it and get a match. I've heard a lot of people suggest that Christian v Kenny on the very first episode of Rampage. That's in August, so a couple months slow build. You get the match announced, but you get a couple matches with Team Taz to build Christian's win losses a little bit, a little bit more. beating some more competitive, some more well-known talent before that title match, would probably make a lot of sense as well. So, no title match. Having Jungle Boy win, I could see that, but I don't think it will. I think it will be Christian. No idea on who the Joker is. A lot of people are suggesting a lot of different names for it. It won't be Samoa Joe. He's still in his 90 days, the same as everyone who was let go with that certain release. The only real big independent name that's out there at the moment is Andrade, and he's already got his match with Kenny for the AAA title. So
right.
I don't think it'll be him because he's already got what he wants. So
yeah,
I don't think the Joker will be a big name. I was actually trying to look up who's injured at the moment because I was just thinking that maybe it might be someone coming back from injury, but or who's not been there for a while that's already signed to AEW. I don't think it's going to be. If it is a new signee, it won't be anyone huge, or it'll just be like a one-match thing. I know a lot of people have suggested that maybe Paul White might get involved because there's been a few reports of him saying he's itching to get back in the ring. He has said all along that he wants to wrestle again at AEW. He's there commentating. He doesn't necessarily need to win it, but he could be there for that as well. Who knows? To be honest, it is good that there's a lot of that this Joker spot is. No one really knows who it's going to be, and I think that's a testament to how many really good workers are available right now, or not signed, and the sort of market that we have. It could be someone from New Japan, it could be someone from anywhere, to be honest. So, but I don't think it's going to be anyone massive because I think the story there is Christian winning, then Christian versus Kenny on the first episode of Rampage.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
I think it's an interesting point that, especially with, I don't know if everybody's seen the little video that TK put out in his TK character about the NJPW news, but I can see him bringing in an NJPW loner to use as the Joker to reemphasize once again that no, we do have a strong relationship with NJPW, regardless of any rumors you've heard.
Yeah, I could see that as well. And then you can kind of get a preview of how big a deal that would be, because then, with Kenny Omega being the champ, it's kind of your perfect scenario of bring someone from New Japan and let people's minds kind of run wild, fantasy booking out, whoever it is versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Title. You can kind of get a look at what the reaction will be to someone like that and see if it's as big a reaction from the non-hardcore internet wrestling community fans as it would be for all of us,
That is a really good point, because they have this weekend for the first time a full house to really gauge reactions to.
Yes, I'm very glad you brought that up, because I'm gonna transition here, and you're gonna see where I'm going with this in a second. I want to put this energy out into the world. The Joker will be Anthony Ogogo right after his match with Cody Rhodes. He's going to win the thing, go on and challenge Kenny Omega, win the world championship. I'm putting that out there into the world so that energy exists somewhere in the world. And my
universe.
That's the transition.
Sorry to burst your bubble, but this is on the pre-match, so he can't have beaten Cody before winning the Battle Royal.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Anthony.
Heel, remember? Heel. This is what I do.
Oh, you're right. You're a heel on this version. I forgot. Anyway, the transition comes when you said we're going to get... When Sergi said we're going to get a full audience to really gauge the reactions of an actual real audience to all of the things in AEW, where before, we haven't had that in... 16 months or however many months it's been since AEW had to move behind closed doors and then have a very small audience. And one part where that really stood out to me was the weigh-in on this past episode of Dynamite, of course, leading into the Ogogo Cody Rhodes match at Double or Nothing. There was a lot of speculation about whether or not fans would turn on Cody Rhodes or whether Ogogo was such an endearing character and human being that he would be cheered as well. I think there's no doubt when those two guys came out for their weigh-in, Ogogo was booed to all corners of the arena. Cody Rhodes got a massive pop, a USA chant, and he came out with a crappy version of his music as well. So I assume it'll be even better when he comes out with the actual good version of his music, which he is committed to doing. So I think that's always good. I think it just shows you these two guys are doing their jobs, whether it connects with you or not. Cody Rhodes is a great babyface. Anthony Ogogo is a great heel. And so this, I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone, I am really, really, really looking forward to this match. I think it's going to be great. The weigh-in didn't do a ton for me. It was just kind of there, but it showed you Anthony Ogogo is a great heel. He understands what he's doing and what he's supposed to do. And I really think it seemed to me like a test run. It almost felt like TK was sitting there going, I just want to make sure that these guys are going to get the reactions I want them to get. And they did. So to me, success. Even though it was it was a success to me. So what do you guys think about the Cody Rhodes Anthony Ogogo match? I feel like it's the most unpredictable one on the card. We have no idea what's going to happen. So I'll start with Sergi. What do you think we're going to see in this match?
Well, first off, I really agree that that it was designed and built as a test. We're hearing all kinds of things on the internet about what people think about who's the real babyface in this story.
Right.
Let's see what a real audience says. And you mentioned that they reacted immediately that way, but after the weigh-in, they went straight to let's really check. Go to each corner. Let's see what reaction you get. You go to the turnbuckle, you do your pose, and do the thing. And I loved how QT was what do you call it? Sort of insecure about it, and like, why are you booing him? He's the real good guy. And you could tell Ogogo was like, I don't care what these Americans think of me.
You are absolutely right. I'm so glad you brought that up.
QT did, though.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
The distinction between the two kinds of heels. One's insecure, the other is not insecure at all.
Exactly. Because it mirrors the character, and it makes a lot of sense. Ogogo in real life and in kayfabe is a badass. He would have no reason to care what other people think about him, because why would he? QT Marshall has always been an insecure character. That's where this story started. Was about QT being insecure about his position in AEW, his friendship with Cody Rhodes. He was insecure about all that. That's why he did all this to begin with. So it's totally in character for that to be the case.
Absolutely. My point being that for me, I get that the weigh-in wasn't much, but I thought it was fun because it was different. They had no physicality, which is always a surprise with these kinds of segments. Everybody kind of stayed on the. They didn't subvert things. I mean, it was a subversion because you expect people to, like, this is all a trap. It's like, no, it's just a weigh-in, period.
Right.
It was fun, and we got to see the audience reaction, and it was a little different. Now, for the match itself, I agree that it's unpredictable in a couple of different ways. First, there's always the worry that they're going to make the wrong choice. It's like, he's the American hero. Maybe he should get the win.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Not, of course.
I see what you're saying.
But, nah. I just, the thing is that I think that what people aren't keeping in mind is that, first, Cody is not, is much more selfless than people realize or acknowledge. And on top of that, let's see. What was I getting? Oh, yes. All of the things that make you say, well, how could he lose when he's built up this way?
Yeah.
That's what makes his loss that much more valuable to Ogogo. And that's exactly the goal. If you want to make Ogogo look amazing, which is exactly what they want, have him win in a situation where, well, how can you? He's coming out as the American dream. He can't lose. that's exactly when you want him to,
Yeah.
and really have that impact. Nah, that's how I feel, and we'll see how it actually goes. But the other thing that's unpredictable about it is we've never really seen this man wrestle a real match. So we
Right.
have no idea what kind of match he's going to wrestle. Is he going to wrestle? Is he going to grapple at all? Is he going to focus completely on strikes?
Yeah.
We don't know. We've never seen it. So it's fascinating to just go into a pay-per-view with a featured match with a guy you've never really seen put on a match. No one's seen him put on a match. The only people who have ever seen him put on a real match beyond a jobber squash are the people he trains with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And so I think that's what's so intriguing about this to me is that how when was the last time that this happened? That someone so I guess you could go back to Floyd Mayweather and Big Show, I guess, at Mania 26 or whatever that was.
I was thinking of Big Show, his first match being against Hulk Hogan for the world title.
Oh yeah, I guess I guess there's that as well. But I mean,
I guess it's called that, but still.
You could probably count them on one hand the number of times where you're going in and you're like, I have no idea what this person is going to bring to the table, what they're going to look like in the ring. All I know about Ogogo is everything about him, everything that he's been able to do says to me that he can at least bring something. Is he going to be able to out-grapple Cody Rhodes? No, but no one out-grapples Cody Rhodes. That's the thing. This is the one time I've been so critical of Cody's character over the course of Dynamite, over the course of AEW's lifespan. But now is the time where that character actually makes sense, because Cody's dominance, even as a babyface now, is going to help him, because when he does it to Ogogo, it's just going to look normal. It's going to look like a normal Cody Rhodes match. He's used to fighting that kind of match. And so Ogogo, all he has to do is sell, make, whatever kind of heelish comeback that he's going to make, probably with QT or someone cheating for him, and then you can get to your finish. You can protect Ogogo as much or as little as you want to in this match. It really just depends how much you trust him. And honestly, with Cody in the ring, trust him as much as you want to. Cody's going to be able to help him however he can. It could go any way. Like, I could envision Cody Rhodes coming out and doing his, pose on the corner or whatever, or he's going to come out like his dad where he's going to start dancing and stuff, and Ogogo just comes up from behind him and punches him in the ribs, and that's the whole match. Like, he just gives him 4 good ones right in the stomach, and that's the thing. I mean, I could see that. I wouldn't necessarily want to see that. I want to see more of a match. I want to see what Ogogo can do. But the fact is that possibility does exist, and it's intriguing to me. Anthony, you were on the episode of the Pro Wrestling Musings podcast where we talked about the Cody Rhodes American Dream promo, and we talked about this whole story, and you said you weren't into the story because it diverted from the original Factory turning on the Nightmare Factory story that we had got originally. So that was the last time that we really discussed it. So now that we're here, we're about to hit this match at the pay-per-view. Do you have any different feelings about this match come Sunday at Double or Nothing?
Nope. In fact, it's actually so let's go into the segment a little bit, okay? Because I have a few issues with it. Okay, so first of all, when Ogogo came out with the Factor Group, Big Show said, "Oh, what are you scared? You bring out everyone," and then made no mention to the 30, 20 to the 15, 20 people that Cody brought out. That was all well and good for him to bring out a massive numbers. No words of being scared or anything like that. Like, that to me just made a little bit of no sense.
To be fair, Paul White is a babyface, so
yeah,
he's calling out the heel.
Look, I get calling out the heel and that, but it made no sense. And as you know, I like things to make sense. Saying, "Oh, what are you scared?" And then Cody comes out with 15 people. It's like, well, of course he's going to bring out a few people because he's bringing out his entire entourage. So he needs some backup. What do you want him to come out on his own? Whenever you see, so let's look at this versus what you see in boxing, where you get everyone bringing out their groups of people who are all standing around them. It's a spectacle. It's meant to build towards the match. Now, did this do that? Did this build towards the match? Yes, obviously. It was a little bit clumsy because obviously, for whatever reason, no one had shown Paul how to use the actual weights. I don't know if that was deliberate or on purpose, but this entire segment, it felt a bit too long. Okay, so it did feel about 5 minutes too long, maybe. I'm not sure how long it actually went for, but it did feel a bit too long. I think the biggest thing I have, and the biggest issue I have with it, is the way they presented QT's promo after the weigh-in. And this is where my biggest issue is. So they made this whole big deal about Anthony Ogogo being one. Do you guys in America use 1 kilo or 1 pound? I can't even remember. Anyway, 1 kilo heavier. Okay, so he's 1 kilo heavier than what Cody Rhodes is, and then he just goes on and says, "Oh, that's it. He's won. He's 1 kilo heavier. He has won. This means he wins. Case in point. That's it. He wins." And obviously, in boxing terms, so the reason for a weigh-in with boxing is 2 reasons. Okay, obviously you need to meet the weight, but the idea is to be as close to that weight as possible, so you get what they like to say, the maximum amount of power from your weight, because it's thought if you weigh that little bit heavier, you have more power. Now, unfortunately, 1 kilo, especially in this kind of scenario, they're not trying to meet weight. So they're just doing this because it's, they're trying to get that big boxing feel, trying to make that spectacle because, it's America versus UK for whatever reason. But anyway, the entire idea here is that, okay, cool, he's 1 kilo heavier, therefore he's got it won. The promo should have been, okay, Cody, he has actually cut weight. He was at, let's just say, 121, 125. He's actually cut weight so that you don't have any excuses. Because if he was saying, if he weighed, say, 5 to 6 kilos heavier, you'd turn around and use that as an excuse. You'd say, oh, he weighed more than me, therefore he won. If the promo was used slightly different, instead of saying, yep, no, he's guaranteed to win, just say, nope, he's now got no excuses because there's no difference in the weight. Also, looking at them, you cannot tell me that Cody and Ogogo weigh 1 kilo difference at all. But anyway, kayfabe aside, I just felt that the promo it didn't really make sense for what they're trying to do here. And, again, it just adds to that extra wrinkle of I just do not feel this. It's a very interesting match. I don't know who's going to win. I still think that Cody's going to win. There's been a lot of talk in regards to Ogogo's eye, so whether or not we see something dirty from Cody going for that eye. I've seen a few people even say, it might be a referee call, and the referee called the match ending because of the damage or the potential damage to Ogogo's eye, trying to protect him from himself, or maybe QT throwing in the towel to protect Ogogo. Stuff like this could be something that could lead to a Cody win, but I do still think that Cody will win. But there's enough there that Ogogo could win, it's interesting. The match is going to be interesting. I don't know what to expect from it. But in terms of the story about what got us here, it's not made sense. There's so many issues that I've had throughout, and this last promo of QT basically saying, oh, yep, no, he weighs 1 kilo heavier. He's won, guaranteed. No issues at all. This is winning. Bam, game over. We may as well not even fight. That's basically what that promo was, and it did not suit it. I think it should have been QT saying, no, you now have no excuses, Cody. If you lose, you can't use this as an excuse. He's cut weight in order to make sure that you don't have any excuses, and that would have been a much better promo for this.
So I would play quick devil's advocate to that. I mean, I think that's absolutely legitimate criticism. But the one point I will say is I feel like if he had done that, you would have a lot of people that would say, well, weight doesn't mean anything in wrestling. I mean, it would be weird if QT started making a huge deal about weight, saying Cody would complain if he feels like, Ogogo weighs more than him. Cody fought Lance Archer and Brody Lee for the TNT Championship, both of whom were well more than 6 or 7 pounds heavier than Cody, and he never said a word about that. So it kind of feels like if QT had done that, it'd be coming pretty much out of left field. It'd be one thing if QT himself did it. I would have almost preferred if Cody was 1 pound heavier and QT was like, oh, he's a pound heavier. That's not fair. Ogogo's used to weighing the same as his opponents, and that kind of, delusional, insecure heel kind of thing. I feel like if he had brought up the weight thing, it would just be kind of apropos of nothing that has happened in this story. But that's just me. I mean, it's just how you prefer your heels, really.
So just to touch on your point,
yeah,
your first words there, what does weight mean to wrestling, is exactly the point. Why are we even doing this? Why are we doing a weigh-in?
Yeah, that's a good
when
point.
There's no weight limit. There's no reason for this to even happen. That's legitimately my main point. Like, we've got the weigh-in, so let's make it there be a reason. The promo we got was QT making a very big thing about the weight. He's the one, not me. I'm not the one who's saying this. QT and AEW are the ones who said that because Ogogo weighs 1 kilo heavier, therefore he's guaranteed to win. So, this isn't me saying, oh, yeah, I'm the one making a big deal of the weight or that. This is AEW themselves are the one who is saying, cool. And QT said it himself. He weighs 1 kilo heavier, therefore he's guaranteed to win. They are the ones who are introducing this whole weight thing into wrestling. So they're the ones who are making the big deal of it. This shouldn't have happened. And this is, I guess, the point of everything here. And I don't want to keep going. There's so many more matches that I'd much rather talk about. But the main point that I've been making the entire time is that this entire storyline makes no sense. There is a much better way to get to Anthony Ogogo versus Cody Rhodes, and nothing in this has really made sense.
I don't think that QT saying that he weighs a pound more and therefore he's going to win is intended to be anybody's stance except for QT's. And even QT is supposed to realize that he sounds pretty delusional in saying that. I mean, it's just a delusional heel being delusional.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think wherever you stand on this, I would prefer that instead of a weigh-in, AEW would do a stare down, because it's the same thing. It's the same kind of pomp and circumstance. It's the exact same situation, but instead of making weight a big deal, now you take that out of it. If AEW had weight divisions, like New Japan could do a weigh-in, because they have weight divisions, so it would make more sense. But like in AEW that doesn't have any, I would just rather they said we're going to do a stare down, and so you could really get that moment of these two guys. That's what I love about boxing or MMA. That stare down is these moment of these two guys who are about to bloody each other and injure, maim each other tomorrow, that are now just staring each other in the face, eye to eye, 6 inches from each other, the night before a fight or whatever the case may be. So I would have preferred that they do it that way rather than a weigh-in. I think a weigh-in would solve all of these issues, or not having a weigh-in would solve all these issues, in my opinion. Not Anthony's issues with the story, but these particular issues with QT's promo.
I think that we need to acknowledge one of the main reasons why they had this weigh-in, which was for those fans, many of them the female fans, who really appreciated seeing Cody and Ogogo in their shorts.
I appreciated seeing Cody and Ogogo in their shorts.
I'm just saying that's like there's definitely some beefcake reasons behind this whole sequence, as well as any storyline ones.
That's definitely true. I do think, end of the day, the main reason they even wanted to do this was to make sure that the fans are going to react properly to these characters. I think they were a little concerned because they surely must have seen, like we said, everyone on social media saying, Ogogo's the real babyface or whatever. So I think they must have been concerned about that. And this was them just making absolutely sure that the fans are going to give these guys the right reactions. And they certainly did. So overall, I think it's a win in that department, even if you personally were not a huge fan of the segment. Let's follow Anthony's advice and talk about matches for which we can say a lot more about the actual match itself. And I want to talk about the tag title matches. I want to talk about Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus the Young Bucks. Mox and King, once again, great promo. There's no question about that. This match, it's gonna be great. It's just gonna be great. I don't know how else to really put it. This is gonna be a great match. So instead of me fumbling around trying to find the words, I'm going to turn it over to Sergi, who did a lot more research on this. Sergi, when you look at the matchup of Mox and King and the Young Bucks, what are you looking forward to seeing in this match?
Oh, just a lot of violence. I think that if you read Styles Makes Fights, you'll note that I never really talk much about tag team matches, and there's a reason for that. Tag team wrestling, to treat it statistically, would be not twice as complicated as talking about a singles match, but I'm guessing at least 16 times more complicated. There's so much to trying to statistically analyze a tag team match. First, who's legal, how long they're legal, which team member is getting the offense, which one is taking the offense, which one's getting the wins, and which one's taking the pins. And it's most of that is data that we're not even capturing. Craig does a great job of pulling data on these matches, but for tag matches we get the number of tags. There just isn't nearly enough to do the kind of deep dive into the statistics that I do with singles matches. And even if he was grabbing all of that information, and it would take him so long to do it, and I appreciate that he just doesn't have the time. It's a ton to try to keep straight in your mind. So for tag matches, as opposed to the singles matches, I'm going in as a fan without. I'm not worried about statistical analysis, and this is the perfect match for that, because this is a match that's just for fun. It exists for fun. It's just despicable heels versus a fun brawler, tough guys. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's really interesting. It's one of those things of, well, most likely the Young Bucks are going to find some way to hold on to their titles and come away with some kind of cheap win. But it certainly would be interesting to see the Wild Things get a run. I mean, I wouldn't complain. So I don't know how it's going to end up. It certainly, retention seems more likely, but not by a ton. And regardless of who wins, it's just going to be fun to watch.
I kind of want to see Eddie Kingston no-sell the cold spray to the face. I know it would totally kill the gimmick, but if you're going to kill a gimmick, that would be the way to do it. I think if you're going to win, do it that way. I think that would be awesome. As far as these statistics do go, because I totally agree with you, this match is here for fun. We're going to watch and enjoy this match, and it could very well be a match that is totally turned upside down instantly by a pre-match brawl or something that happens in that regard, like the Good Brothers getting involved or something like that. But assuming that we do get a straight 2-on-2 tag match for the titles, what I think is really interesting is the fact that the Mox and Kingston, they look like on paper two brawlers that were put together in a tag team. And they function well as a team because they're friends and they know each other. But they don't function well as a team because they know what they're doing. They know how to tag team wrestle. They actually said that. Mox said that in his promo where he says, I know that we're not the well-oiled machine the Young Bucks are. And that's true. The double teams, the Young Bucks are almost 2-1 when it comes to double teams per hour. Tags, same thing. Lots of fouls for Mox and Kingston, even though they're baby faces, because again, sometimes that's what they need to do. because they are not a well-oiled machine as a tag team, not like some of the other teams that exist in AEW right now. But when you look at strikes and grapples, both the two main sources of offense during a match, Mox and King outdo the Bucks per hour in both, especially in strikes, a wide difference in strikes per hour. And I think it just shows you these guys are out there to brawl, and they may not make it look pretty, but they are very, very effective. And I really like that story because the Young Bucks, on the other hand, are one of the best tag teams of all time. And I don't mean that from a shoot perspective. I mean that in kayfabe, they are one of the best tag teams of all time. And so that means that they don't have to do all these volume strikes and lots of grapples and things that Mox and Kingston do. Even the dives, they're averaging right now 19 dives per hour, according to Craig. That is going down. They have not hit that number of dives in a match. I think since they turned heel, they haven't even gotten close. I think they had 2 in their match against the Varsity Blondes. So this is a team that is firing on all cylinders. They're a great team together in the ring. And that, to me, when you look at these statistics, is the really important one that has to be pointed out, that you can see on paper the difference between these two teams in the way they fight, the way they gel as competitors, which, as we always say with AEW, is something that we really like that they do, because it you see in the matches the story they're trying to tell throughout the whole program, which I really like. So, Anthony, when you look at this, is there anything here about the numbers that you feel like stands out to you that maybe we should be watching for in that match, or a story that they might want to tell in that match?
Yeah, a few things. I guess the main one is the strike difference is a lot bigger. 254 strikes to Mox and King versus 183 for the Young Bucks. So to me, if I was in that match, I'd be trying to focus, getting all those strikes in a lot more. The grapples are very even. Dives are very one-sided. I do want to see Eddie Kingston do a dive. That would be hilarious. Submission is very similar. Fouls, 34. So tags, you see clear difference as well. Double teams, a very clear difference. So to me, Mox and Eddie need to get this on their fighting. They want to fight nitty gritty. They want to fight, close up, getting in those strikes and getting those fouls in, doing those, those naughty things, in order to get the win here. If they don't, then basically the Bucks are gonna just move around them, strike them out, dive over them, push them around, and just, so just double team them. That's where the Bucks will get the win. So for this, it's very much a styles. It is really a styles clash, because they both go about things very differently. So it will be an interesting match. I did enjoy the well, I didn't at the time, but when I was watching and they started the Mox and Kingston promo, and then it got cut off and went to ad, I was very, very upset. I was like, how dare you TNT. And then it came back, and it was a really good promo. To be honest, I want to see Kingston get it become an EVP. That would be hilarious as well. But yeah, look, I think, and then now the Twitter bio of the Young Bucks said that they're the ones who caused the truck to, cut to commercial. That's all hilarious stuff.
Yep.
I think, to be honest, this could go one or two ways. So I think this should be the first match back. And so just imagine, you've just finished a Casino Battle Royal, your first official pay-per-view match. Your very first thing here is Wild Thing, and you have Mox and Kingston coming out to that hot crowd. So that's how you start. That would be a really special way of really building that, having the entire crowd, that full capacity crowd singing Wild Thing at the top of their lungs. We all know that these two are over. Give them that opening match. That will be just, I can't even imagine how good that's going to sound. And then give, obviously, everyone I think is thinking that Mox and Kingston are going to win. I think that they will, and I think that they'll probably have a bit of a short run before losing or something happen. However, obviously we've got something else to consider. Is Mox going on paternity leave sometime very soon? Because obviously Renee's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to get maybe some interference of a certain Nick Gage, who, because obviously Moxley's been showing up at his stuff, is he going to show up here and maybe interfere? There's been a few talks about that, or are the Young Bucks going to win and just really submit that huge heel heat, beating the crowd favorite in front of the crowd?
Yeah.
There's like I said, this can go one of two ways. It's either a win or a loss. I'm not sure which one. I'd like to see Mox and Kingsley win, just because I love the pairing. I want to see Kingston will cry in the middle of the ring, and everyone will love it. He'll get his moment. Well and truly deserves it. So I want him to have that. I want him to have all that. But whether or not we're going to get it is, I guess, the real question.
Yeah, I think that's one of the several matches on this card that I feel like could go either way. And I would be okay if it went either way, to be honest. I think both results would be more than acceptable to me. Both teams are great. All four wrestlers in that ring are just tremendous in every way. So honestly, whatever they decide to do, either one can win me over. Let's return to the singles arena here. Let's talk about a match that I find myself a lot more excited for than I thought I that I was going to be, which is Hangman Page versus Brian Cage. This coming in was probably my least favorite, or my least anticipated match on this card. It's a rematch, and those of you who've been listening to the Pro Wrestling Musings podcast for a while, you know that I am not a huge fan of the Hangman character right now. It doesn't really connect with me. However, his promo this week on Dynamite really did connect with me. This was something that I want to see a lot more from Hangman. I know that this is unpopular among a lot of the internet wrestling community. A lot of people really like the kind of, very vulnerable Hangman that, comes out with a beer and doesn't really want to be anyone's friend and kind of has these little snarky lower thirds and all that kind of stuff. I know that people really like that. I prefer the badass, I prefer a badass cowboy Hangman Page. That's the kind that I prefer. I don't want my badass cowboy to be insecure, outwardly insecure, and, whine about his friends and all that kind of stuff. And this is exactly what I wanted to see from him. Page, to me, in his fighting style, embodies a badass cowboy. It's exactly who exactly who his character is. 164 strikes an hour. He, it's way more grapples than normal. A couple dives mixed in there as well. 13 dives an hour. This is all according to Craig's stats that he put together. This is exactly what I want to see from the character that he plays. And his promo, where he just says to Brian Cage, I know that all these guys are here. I know they're going to try to jump me from behind. So for our match, you send these guys away and you be a man and we'll fight one-on-one. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to see. That's exactly what I want from Hangman. So if this is the moment where AEW is going to backtrack slightly on his character and go back to the kind of Hangman that we saw in the first year of AEW, when he was fighting it All In, when he fought Jericho for the world title, when he was first teaming with Kenny, that Hangman is the Hangman that I really love to see. So this is a segment that really connected with me and made me a lot more excited for this match, which in ring is also going to be great. Brian Cage is phenomenal. We all know that. But now I'm actually invested a little bit more in the stories and the characters on display. So, Anthony, I know that you were much higher on Hangman than I was throughout this storyline that he's been telling now for about the past year or so or more. So are you more excited for his match with Cage here? Are you less excited after this promo, or did it make a difference to you?
Didn't really make a difference, to be honest. I think we all know Paige is pretty much going over here. Um, but it's nice to see that he's sort of coming back to that badass that you're speaking of. Because I have said, recently that, if the goal, and this is what everyone's thinking, the goal is to have Paige v Omega at All Out. Okay, so
Yeah.
if that is the goal, we need to make some real big changes, or some, he needs to move along in his storyline. He's had his time of, being wallowing and, getting over everything, but now it's time to start moving forward, and he needs to do that. So this promo of him saying, "Yep, you know what? I'm a smart person." So he's a smart baby face, and I like that. I
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, look, I know this is your game. This is what you do all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you I'm not gonna let you do that to me, because I've already had this happen. Learning from the mistakes.
Yep.
That's what you like to see. It makes it believable, which is what I always say. I like that. So yeah, look, in terms of this one, I fully expect Paige to win. It'll be a good match. I'm no more less or more excited for it, but geez, Paige did get cut up during that match with Janela, uh,
Ooh.
a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think that was definitely a bleeder. I've seen a lot of people's yeah. So yeah, look, I think it'll be a good match. Paige for the win, and then hopefully we start seeing more of that badass cowboy stuff come up, and see him go, you know what? No, I do want the title. I'm coming for it. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's mine. I want it. I'm done. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We need to see that from him. We need to see him verbally say, and this is what Britt did. She said, "Nah, I'm coming for that title," and then she went and worked Elevation, went and worked Dark, got those stats up, got to the point of being number one. She went
Yep.
and did what she needed, and we need to see Paige do the exact same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
now's the perfect time for that.
Yes, I absolutely agree. That original promo from Britt took her from she'll probably get the title at some point. She's this great character to now she is the number one contender and no one is particularly close. It took her into that territory. Hangman could do the exact same thing. He could basically cut the same promo after his match with Cage. I don't mean like the wording and everything, but just his declaration that he is coming for Kenny Omega, and and he should reference all that time and saying, yeah, I struggled with my drinking, or I struggled with anxiety or trust issues or whatever the case may be, and then say, I've now figured all that out because my goal is to be a champion and my goal is to dethrone Kenny Omega. That's all I want. And if he does that, he'll win me over once again, like he did when he first started in AEW. So that's what I can hope for. I totally agree with you, Anthony. Sergi, I actually am not sure about your feelings on Hangman Page. So please enlighten us. I feel like he may have worked better for you than he has for me over this period of time. So are you with Anthony and I here about a little bit of a character change for him as he presumably starts to fight for that world championship?
I see where you're coming from. I don't really see it as much as a character change. As
Let me rephrase, more of a
natural...
re-emphasis on certain parts of his character. Would that be a better way to put it?
Sure. To me, it's a natural and organic growth of the character. He went from being someone who was manipulated by people, emotionally manipulated by people, and tricked. And he's learned from that. And that's what they're showing in his feuds with Matt, and now in his feuds with Team Taz. In his feud with Matt, he showed how the kinds of manipulations that had worked on him before don't work on him anymore, because he's learned from that and he's ready to turn it around on anyone who tries it on him. And with Team Taz, it's a case of showing how, you're going to use these tactics against me, and I'm going to use your pride against you to say, have you proved anything?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it comes down to actually looking at the stats. If you look at Adam Page versus Brian Cage. In general, in their stats, I think the most important one to look at is their average match time in their wins and in their losses.
Mm-hmm.
When Adam Page wins, the average match time is about 9 minutes. When he loses, about 11 minutes. Brian Cage, when he wins, his average match time is about 5 minutes. When he loses, about 14 minutes.
Wow.
This is a huge, huge deal for them. That's the reason why Brian Cage needed to attack Adam Page before the bell with help to make sure that he didn't Adam Page wouldn't be able to take him to that deep water that he's not ready for. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at each of his individual matches, not just the averages, the only match that he's ever won that went about 10 minutes was against Will Hobbs before Will Hobbs turned to the evil side and joined Team Taz.
Mm-hmm.
And what do Brian Cage and Will Hobbs have in common that Brian Cage doesn't have in common with the average with most of his opponents? Muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
This is the issue. Brian Cage is carrying a lot of muscle mass, and that weighs you down over time in the length of a match. Adam Page knows this. Taz knows this. It's the reason Taz did that attack, and Brian Cage does not want to accept that he needed that help. And Adam Page is taking advantage of that.
This is why everyone should be reading Styles Makes Fights. That's about as good of a pitch as I could ever have for reading that. So chalk that up. Chalk this up to another match that everyone is excited to see. And even though this one has presumably a more predictable winner because of the way that the story has gone going into this, to me the angle is still very interesting, even if the winner seems to be fairly predictable, as much as it can be in AEW, which always does like to give us some surprises, especially on events like this. Let's move on to the first of the 3 title matches that I want to put more of a spotlight on. We'll start with the TNT Championship match, Miro and Lance Archer. This, to me, the angle on Dynamite wasn't great. You know, Miro's match with Dante Martin was really good. Miro's good. Dante Martin has a lot of potential, so that's all fine. Jake Roberts, I thought, not a great promo from him. I thought their angle 2 weeks ago on Dynamite, where Lance Archer said everyone dies, and Miro says if everyone dies, then all I ask is that you go first, something like that. That to me should have been the go home angle because that was such a great promo. So that's what made me excited. And this match, I think, is it's just going to be 2 big lads kicking the absolute hell out of each other. And who doesn't want that, honestly? Who doesn't want to see more of that? These guys both incredible amounts of strikes, 159 per hour for Miro, 107 an hour for Lance Archer. Archer adds in a few dives as well. Miro compensates for Archer's athleticism at his size with Miro's submission ability and, of course, the game over, his finisher. Both men, this is going to be a very character-driven match, I think. Miro averages 66 taunts an hour. Lance Archer averages 36. So these are 2 character guys. They are heavy, heavy hitters. 36% strike down rate for Archer. It's just going to be a Haas match, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Sergey, this is one that you have talked about, a matchup that you've talked about on Styles Makes Fights. So we just heard your brilliant analysis of Page and Cage. So if you would please shed the same light on our TNT Championship for Sunday.
Well, I don't have as much light to shed on this one for sure, but I think that, like you were saying, this is what our friend over at WWE, Big E, would call a big men slapping meat, and that's not what we want every match to be, but when they're good at it, like these 2 guys are. I mean, you get like guys who are there just because they're big and don't really bring much else to the table. You'll see those guys in pro wrestling, and these are 2 guys who are the opposite of that. They're big, but they're just good, and it should be really fun. I think that if Miro had not, if it weren't for the fact that Miro just won this title very recently,
Yeah.
I'd have no idea who's going to win. Because this is a very recent reign, and I just don't think that they'd want to kneecap Miro by having him lose so quickly. I think I have to make him the favorite, but that's purely based on you know, a non-kayfabe perspective of, well, it's no good for Miro for him to lose so quickly.
Yeah.
Within the storyline, there's no calling it. There, except for the obvious difference of Miro uses a lot of submissions, and Lance Archer does not. Lance occasionally likes to fly. Miro stays on his feet. But other than that, they're the same guy, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let me ask you this just real fast. I feel like the reason why they really don't want to go with Archer here is just because Miro is a heel, but he's so over. So you don't want a babyface winning a title to be booed out of the building for taking it from someone like Miro, who's a fan favorite. If Lance Archer was the heel persona, the Murderhawk monster that he first came in as, I almost feel like they'd want to put it on him, because then you'd be like, yeah, he's a heel and he's getting electric heat. So, I mean, it's obviously, that's just fantasy booking out, but I think it has to do with how good Lance Archer is.
That's a really good point. I did not bring up the fact that Miro is the one person that did not get the reaction that they've been pushing him towards, and that his character has been built on once he was in front of the real fans. They do seem to be not really buying him as a heel as he may have been intending them to. That it does seem like the fans are in Miro's corner for this one.
Yeah, I agree. Which, if you have one heel in the company who gets cheers, it's not the end of the world, in my opinion. It kind of becomes hard to book someone against him, because then you don't know, like, if we book a babyface against him, the babyface is not going to get cheered. So should we book a heel against him and have heel versus heel? Like, it's going to be hard to do that, but no one's going to complain about the fact that Miro is mega over right now. So it's a pretty good problem to have.
The thing about that is that, yes, Miro is over, but he'll get booed when he's beating on a smaller guy.
That's true.
Nobody was going to boo Dante.
That's a really good point. You make a good point there. So, well, unfortunately, I mean, you've already done Darby Allin, so that's one smaller guy. But I don't know. I mean, you could have Jungle Boy. That would be a guy who could step in there. Anyway, we're getting off track fantasy booking here. We can save that till the Double or Nothing review show if Miro does indeed hang on to the TNT title. Anthony, I know that you've been high on Miro ever since he came in, and you were really high on him winning the TNT championship. It seems that he's going to be the overwhelming favorite to retain here, but I think this is going to be a lot about the actual match that we get and how fun it is to watch. How excited are you for the TNT title match?
Very. I think that this could steal the show. It's going to be a great match. This is really an opportunity for both these two to show what they've got. Both of them, you could say, Lance has had a little bit of an underwhelming run in AEW so far. He's had some good matches here and there, but overall, you can't. There's nothing too special about his time there. And obviously, Miro's got a lot to prove. He's left a big company because they said, they never gave him his moment to shine, and now he's been given his moment. He now needs to prove that he's worthy of this. So I think that both these two guys are going into this match wanting to give it everything they've got to prove the doubters wrong. And I think that will lead to what could be a really, really good match between them. I would have done this week's a little bit different. Obviously still have Miro versus Dante. That moment where the crowd was singing "Miro's gonna kill you," and Miro's just standing there with eyes closed, just drinking it in. That just shows you he is so over. Mm-hmm. People have been wanting this and waiting for this for so long. He's not losing on Sunday. And there's no way they'll be doing that.
There might be a riot at Daly's place if Miro loses that title.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think at this stage it's more about, okay, cool. Let's have a look at the match. The match is going to be great. But if I was to change a little bit of what I would have done, I would have had. So I spoke with you about this. Miro actually made a video himself,
Hmm.
directed at Lance. Sitting by the pool. It was really really good.
Yeah.
I would have played that before his match, had the match,
Hmm.
and then played the response one after the match. Not had Lance go out there at all. Just had that response. That would have been so much better because those two videos back to back are fantastic, and they
Yeah.
should have really used them because they're both really well done and had a lot. So, I would have probably done that instead. Um, it didn't really do much. Obviously, the issue I have with it is that my Fight TV audio was playing up, so I was seeing the action, but the audio had already happened, and then the audio was all getting muddled. So like I can't really say what actually happened because it was all over the place. I've gone back and tried to rewatch it, but it's still kind of messed up.
Oh wow.
Usually it takes a few days to be fixed up, but yeah, so I can't even tell you what really happened at the end. But yeah, look, it could have been done a little bit better. I think having those two promos that they both did on each other
Hmm.
instead, that still have the match because you can. I I don't think at this point the way that they've built it up, you can't have. You need to have the TNT match, the TNT title on the show.
Yeah.
I think that having Miro squash Dante was a really good idea. The way that Dante's back arched in
Oh,
that game
that's
over.
so
Oof, boy.
sick.
Um,
And Darby did
yeah.
that as
So
well. If he does that to Lance Archer, I might die. Like if
yeah.
Lance
So
Archer is actually that flexible and he hasn't told anyone, and Miro just puts the game over on, and Lance Archer's back goes like that, like that's it for me. We're gonna have to find a new podcast host. I'm
um,
done.
yeah. Look, I think the relationship between Archer and Jake Roberts needs to end. Jake Roberts, love him and everything, but he's not doing anything for Archer right now.
Hmm.
His talents could be used much better for someone else, and I think them two need to really part ways because Archer has shown he can cut a promo. He's had a few on his own now. He doesn't need. He's no longer that silent murder character now. He
Yeah.
is now a tweener character. He doesn't need Jake. Jake's very much better for a heel character. So I think give him to someone else. Let someone else use him. Have them to go their separate ways. And have Archer run loose on his own for a while. But yeah, I think Miro will win. It should be a great match. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
I think
Let me
everyone
break in.
is. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that Anthony makes a really good point that there's a lot of really good content that gets made that doesn't make it onto Dynamite, and that makes people wonder, like, this really would have been good on Dynamite. In
Yep.
fact, they
Yep.
kind of make a running joke of it on BTE of I think that was the name of one of the episodes. Why wasn't this on Dynamite? When they were like cutting some good promos, building up the big match between the Bucks and SCU.
Mhm.
And I agree. The two dueling YouTube promos that those two guys cut were very excellent. I agree with Anthony on that. I halfway agree with him about Jake. I think that they should split up, but I think that it's fine to give that story some time. It should probably be a part of whatever story Archer moves on to with Sting, because I mean
Ah.
that's been built up that Archer wants a big match with Sting, a respect match with Sting, with both of them as baby faces, and I hope that that's not just going to be dropped. That once this Miro thing is over,
Yeah.
they'll get back to that.
That would be really interesting because then you have Lance Archer trying to be babyface, almost like what Taz uh, and Brian Cage are kind of doing, where Cage is like
Exactly.
trying to show respect and Taz doesn't want him to do it. But now we get that on a much more personal level, and that's where Jake Roberts makes his split. I would love to see Jake Roberts still involved. The dude is still one of the best promos in wrestling, and he's got such an iconic voice, such an iconic style. So I would love to see him continuing. He's a big reason why Lance Archer had the success he did in the early going, and a big reason why Lance Archer continues to be on the forefront of the bookers' minds when it comes to AEW. They want to use Lance Archer, and I think a big reason for that is Jake Roberts helping him out when he first got to AEW and establishing his character. So he can absolutely do that for someone else, and I'd love to see him do it, because I agree with Anthony. I think he and Archer are done. Archer's a great promo. He can go on his own now. So I would like to see Jake Roberts lend a hand to an up-and-coming member of the roster. Maybe another monster like Lance Archer. That's I'd like to see him do something like that. We got 2 matches more to talk about, and the penultimate match here, the Women's World Championship match, Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker. To me, this has to be the most predictable match on the show. I don't see, besides the TNT title match, I think, I don't see any possible way that Shida walks out of Daly's Place with the title on Sunday. Britt Baker has all the momentum. There needs to be a change in the championship right now. I think Shida has more than run her course as champion. It's time to put the championship on Britt Baker and allow her to get that women's division more focus. And I think her character is as good as any that exists in AEW right now. So she would be the one to do it. As far as how this match is going to look in the ring, the two are actually fairly similar. Shida is more of a striker than Britt Baker is. Both of them, though, make heavy use of submissions. Both of them are pretty solid grapplers. 29 for Britt an hour, 25 an hour for Shida. Obviously, Britt is going to get her advantage by cheating. 42 fouls an hour for her. She's going to let Shida know it. She taunts a whole lot. I think this is going to be a really solid match. I don't think there's any chance in hell that Shida wins it. Maybe you guys have a different perspective on it. Sergi, we'll go to you. Styles make fights. You've talked a lot about both Baker and Shida. What do you see from this one?
Well, I think that one of the big things to look out for in this match is that Britt, before her injury and her timeout, and after, are very different. Well, not very different. They're only different in a couple of areas. In as far as submissions and fouls, that hasn't changed a bit. And as far as offensive output, that hasn't changed. But as far as the balance between striking and grappling, that's changed a lot. And I think that's to her advantage because Hikaru Shida is such a inveterate striker. It's not something you really want to compete with her on. And that might be a big reason why she's changed that focus. Before her injury, striking was one of her big things. I'm pretty sure that the stats that you're looking at are for her whole career or since the beginning of 2020 anyway. Yeah. And but if you break it up for up until April 15th, her last match before her injury, and then after September 30th when she returned from that injury, she focused much more on striking before, and after she's much more focused on grapple moves such as throws and suplexes. And I think that that's a big part of developing a style, at least to some extent, always with in mind that it is my destiny to take that title from Hikaru Shida, the striking expert.
So Britt Baker before the injury against Shida would have been, and in fact, I mean, we did see this match. It was a kind of a total strike fest, and that's now we're seeing a lot more of a styles clash here. Again, we hear that word that seems to be a theme for Double or Nothing. AEW is liking to give us a lot of different styles in the ring and see how they kind of come together, how they clash, if you will. Anthony, I still don't think that there's any chance that Shida walks out with the title, but Sergi makes a great point that it seems that Britt Baker basically since her injury has come back with the sole aim of beating Hikaru Shida, and so therefore she has changed her entire game around that. What do you see from this match? Is there any way that Shida could actually win the title here?
No. Yeah, look, I'm not gonna focus on the double or nothing stuff for this because Baker needs to win. It's plain and simple. She needs to win. She needs to get that moment, and she needs to move on. And Sheeta can go do what she wants. I'll talk about what I think will happen in a few moments, but I want to address. I alluded to this. I have some issues with the segment that we had on Dynamite this week.
Okay.
So obviously we've got a new belt. It looks great. It looks so much better.
I agree.
If you've not seen pictures of it, go have a look. It does look a lot better. They've made the plate a lot bigger, so it doesn't look like a bit of a toy in there. So yeah, look, it looks a lot better. Um, Obviously, there's also a little bit of controversy with this one, where it turned out that some of the Spanish um, commentary team, one of them believed to be Willie, made fun of Sheeta's accent and has now been released. So that has left a bit of a damper on, I guess, what should have been the celebration of Sheeta. Now, when we think about a celebration, okay, Sheeta has been the champion for 365 days, okay? She got to come out, get her new title belt. She got to actually say something to the fans, which is fantastic. Really happy about that. And then Britt came in, she did her promo, and then she left, and then you just had Sheeta left there, not saying anything, no response, just posing with the belts and then walking off. When we compare that to the celebration of the Inner Circle, they got a video package. They got a lot more fanfare, a lot more time. Sheeta should have been there should have been some sort of video package, She should have been given a response to Britt Baker. She should have gotten to say something back to her. These two have barely interacted with each other, and they've got this big match. It's just my main concern here, and I want to be wrong, but they have just time and again let Sheeta down. She has held this title for an entire year. She has ridden this pandemic on her back as the champion. She has been putting on amazing matches, like great quality matches. But there's been very little storyline. There's been very little time for her as a character on here. So leading into what I think is going to happen. Obviously, I'm very critical about that. I think that I hope that they do better by Britt and that they give Britt more time because they need to be given their champions more time. She needs to be featured a lot more than Sheeta ever was. And if they continue just to, okay, cool, she's a champion, but we're just going to give her the same amount of time as Sheeta, then it's just going to be a massive letdown. But what I think is going to happen now, a lot of people have talked about a double turn for Cody and Ogogo. I don't think that's going to happen. If we're going to see a double turn, this is where it happens. Baker, the fans love Britt Baker. She is over. The last thing you want a heel being, you don't want a heel being openly chanted and, enjoyed by the fans. You want a heel to be booed, or you want a face to be have that positive crowd reaction. So let's see a double turn. Baker wins. Sheeta attacks her at the end. Baker goes in. She's like, oh, like yes, I'm champion. Goes up and then gives that bit of recognition, saying, "Yep, look." And she did this during the promo. She's like, you did a good job. She did a little bit of a kind of a baby face bit of a promo. But she does the whole yep, good match, and then Sheeta just attacks her, and then walks out. Or it can even happen down the line. It doesn't have to be on the pay per view, but I definitely would like to see Sheeta go heel. And if this is where we do the double turn, that might make it a little bit more interesting because I think at the moment the interest is just seeing Baker get her big moment, but maybe we can get a little bit of some cracks in Sheeta and seeing her go a bit heelish and leading towards either a on the spot heel turn or something that we're going to build over the next couple of weeks to see her go heel to maybe get a rematch of Sheeta versus Baker down the line. Sheeta versus Baker 3. This time, the roles reversed. So, the first time was obviously Sheeta clear face. Baker clear face. This one's obviously Shida versus Baker. Again, we've got heel versus face. But during the match, things happen. It becomes a bit blurry. And then the third one down the line would be Baker as face, Shida versus as heel. But yeah, all in all, a little bit disappointed about the celebration of Shida. I don't think that she got enough time. Hopefully they give them enough time to have a great match on the pay-per-view. Yeah. It should be a great match. Both girls are at their peak. Now you did mention the Tony Khan spot that he did before AEW, where he called out WWE. WWE did post a video of Nia Jax squashing Britt Baker to the Instagram shortly afterwards. So that's their that was quite funny to see that happen.
It's acknowledgement, I guess.
Yeah. I definitely understand where you're coming from with that. I think the reason I would disagree is because I think the reason why Shida didn't get the time is not necessarily because AEW didn't care. I think it's because the Inner Circle, they have been their stories and what they've done has been the fans have been emotionally connected to it from moment one. They've been such a huge part of what AEW has been, and you can argue that well, if AEW had pushed Shida that way, then maybe she would have been the same thing. But I actually don't think so. The reason why the Inner Circle has been so over and has been so connected with AEW is because all of these great characters, specifically Chris Jericho, have ingratiated themselves so well to fans. Shida is the opposite. She puts on great matches. The problem is she's in a company where everyone can put on great matches. And I don't even think that she is the best wrestler, the best female wrestler in the company. She's great. I think she's top 3, but I don't think she's the best. And the problem is she's not a great promo. She's not a great character. So AEW basically put the title on her and said, well, there's nothing we can do. Like, I wish they had given her more time. But I think at this point, Britt Baker, what she has over Shida, she is not as good in the ring as Shida is, no question. But she is a phenomenal character. And that's what makes a world championship. The TNT title was fun when Cody Rhodes was doing his open challenge. But what really brought it to the next level was Brody Lee as a character doing what he did. The AEW World Championship was hot from moment one because Chris Jericho as a character was so over and so great. Shida never was that. And honestly, AEW's 3 women's champions, Riho, Nyla Rose, and Shida, none of them are great characters. Now is the time to put the title on Britt Baker, and I would say don't change her character at all. I definitely understand where you're coming from. Maybe somewhere down the road we can see that. But to me, you got Britt Baker. You've got a phenomenal character. Just go with her right now. Let her put the division on her back and be that character that really makes the women's division relevant in AEW, because that's how it's worked for all 3 titles so far. All 3 other titles in AEW, at least in my opinion. So, but that's just me. Whatever you think, let us know in the comments, as with everything we talk about. But I do want to get to our final match that we want to talk about, so that we...
Really?
Huh?
There's
do you want to...
Like 3 matches still.
We're going to talk about more? All right, we'll talk about more.
Well, I'm just saying, there's the world title match, there's the Stadium Stampede, and I suppose we could say a few things about Sting's match. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not that interesting a match, but it is Sting's first live match in years.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's talk about Sting's match then. And it sounds like there's something I think we could all say, but Sergi in particular, you sound pretty interested about it. So what I want to know from you is, like you said, the build has been pretty quick, and Darby was the TNT champion until just like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But what do you expect to see from this match? I think that's the big question.
I think that the big thing that we're going into here is everybody's wondering. We've seen him do a cinematic match. Can Sting really go in a real live match in front of a crowd? And how's the crowd going to react to him? The This is the first time a full crowd will be seeing him. In addition to it being the first time that he's had a live match as opposed to a cinematic match since his injury years ago. It's all very interesting. Will it be good? That's an open question. But he's got Darby to work with, and he's got two guys on the other side of the ring who aren't very interesting, I would say, but are certainly great workers. So, put all that together, and Sting's got a lot of help. So I think it's definitely, I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes.
I would say, I actually think that Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, I think they are really interesting, but it remains to be seen if that is just a function of who they're feuding with, because Darby's really interesting. So that's totally possible. I don't know for sure. What I do know is these guys, Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, they're big strikers, so they're probably going to get a lot of heat on Darby. I would definitely imagine that. Lots of submissions coming. Probably a couple heel hook attempts from Scorpio. These guys tag frequently. We have a very small sample size, just under 10 minutes of them in the ring. But if you extrapolate that out, 49 tags an hour for these guys. They seem to be gelling pretty well as a tag team. To me, this breaks down as heat on Darby, Sting hot tag, Sting does the greatest hits, Stinger Splash, Scorpion Death Drop, maybe a little Scorpion Deathlock action, and I think ultimately probably Page and Sky win this match, I would think. That's not cut and dry. I think either team could probably win, but that's how I see it. So I am open to being very interested by this match, but at this point, I'm not sure I am. Anthony, can you change my mind on that?
Nope. I have no interest in the match. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to put it out there. No interest at it at all. It'll be good to see Sting. Well, it could be good to see Sting wrestle again. As to who's winning, I've suggested Sting and Darby win, and then maybe lead to an individual Darby versus Ego feud, because that's where that real feud is. And then Sting hopefully goes and does something else for a little bit, and allows Darby to go on a run on his own for a little bit. Mm-hmm. No interest at all, really.
One thing I want to say is that although I'm sure that we will see some Ethan Page selling and some hot tag by Sting, I would not be at all surprised if they reverse that at some point in the match, and Sting will be like, I want to give Darby the opportunity to be the hot tag in this match too, because he has some great fire and offense as well, and I can sell also as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that in both iterations at some point in the match.
I could definitely see that.
Let's. I want to see. I don't want to see it, but I want to see it. I want to see Sting take one of the Ego's edges from.
Oh God.
From Ego, like that, for selling wise. I think that will. Everyone will be like, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" I want to see it, but I don't want to see it because I'll be like hands over my eyes, peeking. Oh God, is he dead?
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's good because it will show that okay, cool, he can take that level of a bump.
I agree with that. Here's the thing, because we already saw that when he took that power bomb from Brian Cage. You're talking about basically walking muscle, just power bombing him and not taking anything off of it. It wasn't like a jackknife where he just kind of fell. He just planted him back first, and that was the exact same thing. We were like, oh my God, like he's just killed him. Like it's over for Sting. It could be the exact same thing. So I agree. It'd be kind of cool to see that. We'll see. My mind is open on this match. I think that's where I'm going into it. Another match where my mind is really open is definitely the Stadium Stampede match. Anthony, we have talked about this before on the podcast, where you have said the first Stadium Stampede was such a great match and such an iconic match, and at that time such a needed match early in the pandemic, and everyone was depressed, and now we get the Stadium Stampede, and it was just fun, and it was unique, and everyone loved it. And so now we revisit it, and it seems very, very clear we are not going to get the same match. This MJF was not just bluffing when he said there's not going to be comedy or anything like that. To me, the go home angle on Dynamite definitely proved that we are going to get a much darker version of the Stadium Stampede than what we saw last year. So to me, my mind again is very open on this one. I'm open to being convinced that this was the right idea, even though I feel like it's all moved a little too quickly, this story. So for you, Anthony, who was very vocal about not wanting Stadium Stampede for this feud, have they done anything to change your mind over the last few weeks?
Not really. So, I know, very critical. It's like I don't even like the show, but I do. I promise. Look, you've gone. So we had Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts was such a like visual thing, okay, where you're bleeding, and all the promos leading up to it was like, this could be the end of our careers. We're preparing ourselves for death.
Yeah.
We're prepared to die in that ring. You don't give those promos out for a match that you're just gonna have, okay? And now they're coming into this. Now, don't forget that they had a bobbly bath, which is a comedy thing, and you saw all the guys of the Pinnacle being, flopping around like goldfish in the middle of the ring in their suits, okay? So, as much as there's like, okay, cool, this is leading up to a very serious match, you've still got the comedy aspects of what you could consider the fun parts of Stadium Stampede still leaking out into, I guess, the build of it. Yeah, so for me, I'm still not sure. I don't think that it needed a Stadium Stampede. The whole thing, I did like that they did sort of, you had the hostage situation, but it didn't really do much, I guess, for me, because it's like, okay, the spot where it didn't, like, it's really hard to explain, because you had the really cool spot of the Santana Ortiz going through the table from FTR, the dual tables through by FTR. That was really cool, and it looked really good.
Yeah, I agree.
But then later on, you had MJF posting a photo of all the Pinnacle with their butts out, pissing on the Inner Circle sign on the stadium.
Yeah.
So in one way, yeah, they're saying, okay, cool, this is going to be serious in that, but there's also the aspect of, okay, look, it is pretty rushed, but I don't know what we're going to get. I've actually predicted Inner Circle to win this one.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason for that is that, so we got the whole big thing now. I found it funny that we've got a bunch of baby faces, and because they're turned so new, the video package was basically them beating up all the current baby faces. That was quite funny. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, let's celebrate these baby faces by watching a video of you beating up all the current baby faces who we're meant to be also rooting for. Cool. That was funny. But anyway, that aside, I think what will happen, or what it could happen, Inner Circle will get the win, and then just decide to go their own way anyway. Like, still be, oh yeah, we'll always be Inner Circle, but we're gonna all go off and focus on our own things for a little bit. But if we ever need each other, we can still come back together. And then later on down the track, you can have that big Inner Circle reunion down the line. That's what I think they'll do. It means that they're not, because they've obviously had this whole thing with Cody, not being able to ever fight for the AEW title. I think that might have hamstrung them a little bit. So I don't know if they're going to make that same mistake of, okay, cool, we have this over faction that everyone loves, but we know that they all want to go off and do their own thing. We know that, they want to go do different things. So let's have them have the win. Let's then have them go off on their own way, on their own terms. And that's the very clear thing, that they're doing it on their own terms. They go, yep, cool, we won. However, on our own terms, we've decided that we're going to go off and do our own thing. However, we've always got each other's back, and then down the line, you'll have the big triumphant thing of all of them returning, and that big moment and that big pop of, oh my god, the inner circle is back.
Would that be an effective conclusion to that story, though? Because you're talking about Blood and Guts where the Pinnacle wins and then the Inner Circle wins here. You're obviously setting up a grudge match, and the Inner Circle just says bye.
Yeah, between Chris Jericho and MJF, which is, Chris Jericho will go off and feud one-on-one with MJF. You'll probably get you might get a few Pinnacle versus, the one-on-one, the sort of FTR versus Ortiz feud, but they're separate. They're kind of separate. Like, I'm just throwing balls here. I honestly don't care. Whoever wins. I honestly don't care. I'm just thinking of outside the box. If the Pinnacle wins. I just don't care.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Sergi, what are your thoughts on this one?
I definitely see things very differently. Absolutely buy into Cody's stipulation. I love that. I love that they have things that happen that have real consequences, that those consequences have meaning, and they move forward in time as the story goes forward. I love that they don't seem to have any intention of retconning anything, and I think that this is a great example of this. I can certainly see where people might think that this is rushed, that these two matches were too close together, and that's definitely a point. But the sequence of first we're going to try to kill them, that failed. Okay, we're going to try to bait them into a match where there's a stipulation that they have to break up, because MJF's goal has always been to destroy the Inner Circle, because he sees the Inner Circle as the main obstacle to his goals of collecting the titles
right.
and he has to, his real goal is the Elite. That's what he wants. He wants what the Elite has.
Yeah.
But Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle are in his way, and he has to find a way to end them. And he tried one thing, it didn't work. And the thing is, he says, "Oh, we don't want a rematch," but he was always lying. He wanted that rematch. He just wanted to make it sound like, you want that rematch, so you're going to have to give me what I want, which is the stipulation. That stipulation was what was really important to him all along.
Yeah. You make a really good point. I mean, I think the story was rushed in that we went so quickly from Blood and Guts, where both teams said, you're gonna have to kill us in order to win this match. No one died, obviously. Jericho did fall off the top of the cage, and then suddenly he's back. I understand he had the elbow thing, which is a nice touch, but also probably could have kept him off TV for a couple weeks. It feels rushed just because they made Blood and Guts feel like the biggest deal ever. Like it was the most brutal, the most violent, the most gory match that you were going to see, and they kind of, I don't want to say they destroyed the gimmick, because they definitely didn't, but they kind of took away from the gimmick a little bit, because now suddenly we've got another match that's even more violent and even more gory and has even more stakes. That's the reason I feel like it's rushed. I wanted to give them a little bit more time for Blood and Guts to be sold by all of the wrestlers involved. I understand that this
for sure. I mean, if there had been more time, it would have been great.
Yeah,
but,
I understand it's kind of a victim of circumstance kind of thing. That one I do get.
Yeah, I mean, they only had the time they had, and I think that simply saying, like, hey, I mean, his arm's broken, period.
He's got a shoot injury, so that's fair enough. I don't even know what the hell Chris Jericho's going to do in this match.
Yeah, true enough. And I don't think that they are trying to sell Stadium Stampede as, more violent than War Games. They're just saying it's going to be more violent than it was last year. And what's changing isn't that we're not upping the violence from Blood and Guts. We're upping the stakes. Mm-hmm. Before, we were hoping we'd scare you off from ever challenging us again. Obviously not. That wouldn't work. But now there's a real stipulation to put an end to you.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Honestly, like I said, my mind's really open to this. These two teams are great promos, and like I said, I did really love the go home angle for this. To me, it proved that Stadium Stampede is going to be different. And like we talk about most weeks on the podcast, AEW has earned that trust with us where, if AEW tells me we're going to do something different, just trust us that it's going to be good. At this point, I say, okay, I will trust you that this is going to be good. So until they lose that from me, I'm going to trust that they're going to deliver me something I'm not expecting with this one, and I'm going to like it. So that's all I can say about that. I think just go in with an open mind, and AEW will probably deliver us something that we really like. Let's finally make our way to the main event, the triple threat, Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy. The angle going into this one, just like the Inner Circle Pinnacle storyline, to a lot of us has felt a bit rushed as well. This one, again, very much these guys are victims of circumstance, specifically Orange Cassidy injuring himself in that match with Pac, or Pac injuring Orange Cassidy in that match, whatever it was. Thankfully, Cassidy's okay, and he's still over. He goes out in front of the fans. The fans love him. That was the one where the theme music change to me was most evident. That music hits and the entire crowd just erupts, and now it's so much a part of Orange Cassidy, that theme. So he is super over. Pac is really over. Kenny's really over, because this is the first time Kenny's been in front of a big crowd with the AEW World Championship, and he is over. Of course, he was going to be. This match, I almost struggle to find anything to possibly say about this match. This is this is obviously a massive clash of styles. Pac is a striker, 164 strikes an hour for him. Omega's a grappler, 40 grapples an hour for him. Orange Cassidy basically doesn't do anything. So until he does do something. As we know from him, Pac is an incredible diver, supremely talented athlete. Kenny Omega's been working on his submissions. What do you say? These are three guys that fight completely different styles. They are three of the best wrestlers on the planet. There's a legitimate argument to say that Kenny Omega and Pac are numbers 1 and 2. I've heard people make that argument, and it's convincing. So, I mean, what the hell? You're just gonna get a great match. Like, what more do you want from your pay-per-view main event? You're gonna get a 15 trillion star match from these three. So Sergi, as someone who analyzes the styles specifically of all of these three men, I don't know if you guys have heard, but Sergi does styles make fights. So I don't know if I plug that, but this to me seems like three very distinct, very unique styles coming into this. So. What do you make of the three fighting styles of these guys?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That there are three incredibly distinct styles, or four, depending on how you look at it. Omega has one of the most balanced, classic styles that you'll see. I mean, him and Cody are just they're not interested in doing anything flashy. They do a basic thing and they do it well, and that's
Yeah.
all there is to it. They're fantastic at what they do, and what they do is basically pretty simple. I mean, people look to Omega and are like, "Oh, the 6-star match," but this is not a spot-based thing. He does very simple things. He does them well.
Yeah.
I mean, but then you have Pac. Pac is very different. Um, Pac has a all offense, straight at you attitude, no matter what
Yeah.
mix he uses, and he uses different mixes depending on what. If you look at the Styles Makes Fights episode where I was talking about the matchup between Pac and Orange, that unfortunately did not turn out to be quite the match we may have hoped for. I noted how when he was working as a heel before the quarantine, he had a very different approach that was very grounded in submissions, in stretches,
Yeah.
Lots of punishment, and he came back, and he's much more focused on strikes. And since in this match he's very explicitly the tweener, as
Yeah.
he is like between Omega and Orange, the clear heel and the clear babyface. It's really an interesting question of, is he going to lean more into one or the other, or a blend? I'm really fascinated to see what the answer will be to that. And then you have Orange Cassidy, and you say that, well, he doesn't do much, and that's true. His goal is to avoid overextending himself. I
Yeah.
mean, you could say he's lazy, but it's more accurate to say that his character or his gimmick is that he's lazy, but that has a goal. It irritates his opponent, and it
Yeah.
also puts them at a disadvantage when they overreact and are excuse me, overzealous.
Mm-hmm.
And also he avoids overextending himself, and also is extremely quick and ready with counters and to take advantage of any overextension by his opponent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we have not seen him in a match like this before, where he can play off of two different people, and he can throw in a gimmick like simply running away. He can he can leave the ring and let them fight it out as long as he wants, and jump back in just to break up pins, and, and
Mm-hmm.
and save himself so much. And it's the sort of thing that he would do, and Omega and Pac just be mad at him and just go after him.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind, though, is also they all have backup. Omega has more backup. He's the champion, and he has a lot of allies, but
Yeah.
but Pac and Orange between them have their allies have the common goal of they both want to see a fair outcome, and would likely will work together to prevent Omega's allies from tipping the scales.
Yeah, you make a really good point that you could easily see Orange just kind of hanging out for a lot of this match. To me, that only works if what's going on in the ring is so good that you forget that there's actually supposed to be a third member of the match. Well, luckily, we know that what Omega and Pac can deliver is exactly that. They can deliver a match that is so good that you forget there's anything else going on, and then Orange Cassidy comes back in to break up a pin, like Omega hits a V trigger, and then you're like, oh, that's right, Orange Cassidy's in this match too. That would work for me, but only because Omega and Pac, the two of them are two of the best wrestlers in the world right now, possibly two of the best wrestlers of this generation, depending on how you look at it. So to me, these two guys could have a great match in their sleep. When Orange Cassidy in a three-man match is the worst worker by a long, long mile, and this guy is a really good worker, that says a lot about what you've got to me. Anthony, we talked a lot about the styles of these three guys. It seems to me like that's what they're being built as. So I want to talk to you a lot about the story in this match. When you look at it, Kenny has had his elite guys with him. He's had his friends. That's been such a big story about him as champion. So what kind of involvement, if any, would you like to see from them during this kind of match?
To be honest, I'd hope for none. I know I'm not getting that, but I just, if we're gonna have a triple threat, let's just have the triple threat. Have all three guys go in there and put on a great show with no outside interference. Let's see what all three can do. That's what I'd
I
like
agree
to
with
happen.
that.
That's what I'd really like to happen. Whether or not we're gonna get that, probably not. At the end of the day, I've tipped Kenny to win. And then because we have built up and we've had some matches between them, and they did have a feud earlier, we'll probably see Best Friends and Death Triangle go and fight a one-on-one triple feud between them. So, that will be a bit of interest there. So, yes, just want a not nice, clean three-way match between the three guys, and that's it. That's all I want. Just nice and simple.
What do you expect to see specifically when it comes to Orange Cassidy's involvement? I mean, this like Sergi and I were just discussing, there's a lot of speculation that he will, just kind of hang out for a lot of the match, and it would certainly fit his character. But do you think there's any chance that he decides to kind of mix it up with these two guys and give us more of a hectic, high pace triple threat than what I think a lot of people would maybe be expecting when it comes to his involvement?
He could. I think that with the segment that we saw, him delivering the shredded up paper, and then him getting in the punches and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he wants this. That shot of him holding the title, he didn't even hold it up all right. He was holding it halfway. That was good. One of my friends and one of the other pro wrestling musing writers who actually does a lot of stuff on the Dynamite Roundtable, named Angry Daisy. Her and her friend have actually made a drinking game for Double or Nothing, and one of the things is to take a drink every time Orange Cassidy does a Orange Cassidyism. So for their sake, I hope that there's not too much. But if there is, well, they're probably going to have a bad time by then. But yeah, look, I think he's gonna go. I think he's gonna put in, he's gonna put in a really good showing. I think he's probably start out, first 5 minutes maybe doing some Orange Cassidy stuff that we'll expect, and then hit that switch and then just go.
Yeah, which would be fine because again, this guy's a phenomenal worker. So not to take anything away from him, sometimes his gimmick gets in the way of showing us how good in the ring he can really be. I do want to note that AEW has certainly made it a point to put over the Orange Punch. This definitely, like, Beach Break is kind of cool, and they put that over briefly, but it certainly seems like Orange Punch, that is the finisher, and Pac's sell to it is like, okay, so you're telling me that Pac's got the Black Arrow, Kenny Omega has the One-Winged Angel, of course, the move that no one has ever kicked out of, or now they're saying one person is kicked out of it because now we're allowed to mention New Japan. And now Orange has the Orange Punch, which to me they're trying to put over on the level of the Black Arrow. Not so much One-Winged Angel, but certainly when it comes to the Black Arrow, which I like, because I like the idea that all three guys have their kill shot that they can go with. And the fact that for Orange, he telegraphs it, but only to us. To the wrestlers, it can come out of nowhere. They often don't see it. So I really like that dynamic. And I think Orange should be treated as a legitimate worker. Whatever his gimmick, the dude's in a world championship match. So he should be treated as legitimate. If you don't, you are kind of taking the piss out of your own world title. So they're treating him legitimately. And to me, that's a good decision. Orange's match with Pac, I believe at Revolution 2020, I think it was a fantastic match.
It was actually Double or Nothing.
It was Double or Nothing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was great, and it gave us the video of Orange Cassidy corpsing at Pac's selling of his rolling through the ring. I loved that. It makes me laugh every time. Obviously, Omega and Pac have put on phenomenal matches. Their Iron Man match on Dynamite was one of the best Dynamite matches I think that they've ever had, that's ever been on the show. I mean, I don't know how many different ways I can say this. This match is going to be fantastic, and that's just what it's going to be. What the hell else do you want? Real quick, this wouldn't be a preview show if we didn't talk picks. So, Sergi, your pick for the main event. Is there any way Kenny Omega loses the title here?
Yes. I think that it's unlikely, but it's definitely possible simply because it's a triple threat. I think that there is no way that Kenny Omega gets pinned or loses this match personally. But it is certainly possible for Orange or Pac to lose to either one of the other, leading to a one-on-one rematch with one of the two of them as the champion and Omega as the challenger. Definitely could see that happening. and most likely that being a chance to give Orange Cassidy a little bit of a rub. Orange Cassidy getting that win. I definitely could see that happening. I think that's one of the fascinating things about it being a triple threat, because if it were one-on-one, you would go into it saying, there's no way that Kenny's winning this soon, or losing the title this soon, or taking a pin this soon in this big dominant run. But a match where he doesn't have to lose in order to lose, yeah, I can see that happening.
I agree with you on that, but I actually think if we were going to do something like that, I think Pac might be the one that ends up with that title, just because giving an Omega Pac match that much more emotion, I think it is. I mean, it would be a great match regardless, but I really like the idea of Kenny solidifying his run as champion, ironically, as a challenger. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
absolutely,
Pac can be that kind of champion, and Kenny gets to solidify himself. Sometimes he gets a little bit into that comedy stuff that we've seen, which is fine. You know, that's, everyone has a different opinion on that. But this, to me, if that were to go down, would be a much more serious Kenny Omega, not doing the comedy stuff. Like, his goal is just to destroy Pac and get that title back. Orange Cassidy doesn't, to me, come off as a world champion. He's great. I love Orange Cassidy. I don't think I need to see the belt on him. Like, you know, kind of like a Jake Roberts thing when he was wrestling, or Ted DiBiase or whatever. Guys, there are some guys that just work without the title, and, you know, Orange Cassidy to me is one of those guys. I don't know how much better he gets with a world title. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But even though I really do like him, I don't have a problem with him.
I'm sure that there are people who agree. It's not just you, but I do think that that AEW see him as someone who could be a star of the future. But he is a little older than he looks, and if that's the plan, now's the time to start moving in that direction.
Fair enough. Anthony, is there any chance that Kenny Omega does not walk out of Daly's Place with the championship after Double or Nothing?
0. He's winning. There's no doubt in my mind, especially if you know, if he loses, what's the point? What does it gain? He doesn't gain anything for anyone. It doesn't do anyone any favors. Even if you give him one of these other two guys a short run, then you're giving the title a short run with a short person. You know, I just don't. It's not. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't fully expect Kenny to win. What I'd like to see at the end of it is Kenny win and then get attacked by Andrade at the end. That would be pretty cool. That'd be cool. Having him, obviously he's got his AAA Mania match coming up, so, you know, just having him come out and attack him at the end. But yeah, there's no way Kenny's losing this match at all, even though it's triple threat. Yeah, no way he's losing.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with either one of you. I think it just means that they've done a good enough job of giving us enough of a question for someone, you know, to get us a little bit more invested in this match than it looked like they were going to after what happened in the number one contenders match. You know, after the Orange Cassidy injury, you're kind of thinking, oh my God, like this triple threat has just lost all its heat, because we all know it wasn't supposed to go down like that. I think they've done a pretty good job to recover. And I think a lot of that is due to Kenny Omega and Don Callis. Those guys are great. And Pac cuts a hell of a promo. And I think he really helped sell this idea that, you know, he kind of exists in that realm where even if a mistake is made in kayfabe, even he as a character, or outside of kayfabe rather, he as a character in kayfabe doesn't care about that mistake. You know what I mean? It's hard to describe, but like, we all know that number one contenders match outside of storyline didn't go as planned. But Pac as a character doesn't know that. You know, Pac as a character is just like, it doesn't matter what happens in or out of storyline. The point is, I'm a badass, and it seems to me like that's just, it's an extension of his personality. You know, we talk about that with great wrestling characters. It's just their personality dialed up to 11. So I think these guys are doing a really good job to salvage what looked like a really mangled build after that unfortunate injury picked up in that number one contenders match. So credit to these guys. And Double or Nothing is, at the time of recording, less than 24 hours away. So if you're listening to this after Double or Nothing, good for you. Thanks for doing that. We really, really, really appreciate it. So go down to the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or just tweet one of us. We're about to tell you where in 1 second, and tell us how dumb we are for getting everything wrong, presumably. I don't know what's going to happen. That's just my general assumption.
Well, we disagree on everything, so somebody's got to be right.
Yes,
we all
someone got it right.
We could get everything wrong, but one of the three of us are bound to be right about everything.
Well, that's Anthony's heel turn really helped with this, because now we get the heel perspective on everything. So if we're wrong, Anthony would be right. So yeah, I take that back. Someone was right. Tell us who it was, and you. And you can tell us exactly at the places that people are now about to tell you, because both these guys know the drill. So, Sergi, please tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, my Twitter is Sergi Alderman, at Sergi Alderman, and also I put out a weekly, usually weekly, a little bit more than weekly this week because of everything going on, column on the Pro Wrestling Musings website, ProWrestlingMusings.com website, called Styles Makes Fights. It's called Styles Makes Fights because that's a common phrase that announcers will use regarding how when different fighters with different styles meet, that's what really makes us see what they're each made of, and that's the analysis of that is what I do, and is what I really find interesting, and I hope you find it interesting too. So come and read my articles.
If you made it this far, you probably do find it interesting. So if you made it this far and don't read them, what the hell are you doing? Go read them. Anthony, please tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me in Australia.
Right? Like you sound under.
I think you used that joke last week. I'm gonna call a foul on that.
Yeah, probably.
You are a heel, so I guess that's fine.
Yeah, and also, we are currently in a COVID lockdown, so you can excuse me for using the same joke. It's pretty much the same week here, so you can find me at Anthony Down Under. My most recent article was on something. It was on the TBS move on Pro Wrestling Musings. Next article I'm working on at the moment is a surprise, so I'm not going to even say anything because it's been a lot of work, so I'm just going to drop that sometime and everyone will be like, oh wow, this is a lot of work, you did a good job. So enjoy that one.
That's generally what we say when you drop articles. So thanks for doing that, and I'm very much looking forward to reading whatever it is that ends up being. I have been Griff from GA. You can check me out on my personal YouTube channel, General Admission Wrestling. While you're on YouTube, if you're not already there, check out the Pro Wrestling Musings YouTube channel. We got all kinds of cool stuff that we talk about, including a specific podcast dedicated to talking about AEW's move to TBS and the announcement of Rampage and all the stuff that came along with that announcement. That was very recently, so go check that out. Anthony was talking about that as well, because Anthony's our in-house expert for things like that. Thank you all for making it all the way through. Have a great rest of your weekend, or great week if you're listening to this after Double or Nothing. If you're not, have a great time watching Double or Nothing, and we will be back to you with a review of that show right after, well, not right after, but very soon, within 24 hours, hopefully, after it airs. Thank you all so much once again for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.